The Mask's Whisper. We were cleaning out the attic one weekend. My wife loves a tidy house and a tidy attic. It was supposed to be a simple chore. Find the junk, toss the junk, before my wife and daughter flew back from Grandma's house. My other kids, Ethan and Ben, were helping. But of course, they were just in it for the treasures. I'd convinced them long ago that the last owner of the house had left gold coins hidden in the attic. That was a lie. I just wanted an excuse to give them something to occupy their busy brains. They also just loved rifling through our old stuff, finding little knickknacks from before they were born. That's when we found it. No, not a gold coin. And no, not a cursed doll. Though that probably would have been better. It was a box I hadn't seen in years, full of my old Halloween costumes. I hadn't even realized we'd kept them. Ben pulled out a plastic pirate sword and started smacking Ethan with it. But he wasn't having any of it. Ethan found the mask. It was an old rubber goblin mask, cracked, faded, and smelling like something that had been shut away too long. It was creepy and destined for the dumpster, but Ethan thought it was the coolest thing ever. Vintage. He's 10, and I'm pretty sure he doesn't know what vintage actually means. But he begged me to let him try it on, even though I wasn't so sure. The mice that must have nested in there, the ancient candy crumbs. Nasty stuff. "Come on, Dad, let me wear it," he said. And after a moment, I caved. It seemed harmless, right? Just a kid playing around with an old costume. Like everything else, I figured it would last 5 minutes before he'd get bored. At first, that's what it was. It was just him pretending to be a goblin, growling, chasing his brother. They were laughing, so I didn't think much of it. But then, it changed. Ethan's growls became more intense, deeper, and then he pounced on Ben, harder than I'd ever seen him play. "Ethan, take it easy," I said, my voice sharp, trying to break through whatever mood had taken over him. But he just turned to me, and there was something in his eyes, like he wasn't there anymore. He growled again, low and guttural like an animal. I told him to take off the mask, but he just shook his head, still pacing around the attic like he was hunting. It was the damn video games, I thought. Or maybe he'd gotten into the Halloween candy a little early. Ben had the wind knocked out of him, but he'd be fine. He dusted himself off and scurried downstairs. I didn't blame him. Ethan was completely out of line. I stepped toward him, trying to pull the mask off myself, but he slapped my hand away. Hard. "Don't touch me," he snapped, his voice rough, angry, not like him at all. It sent a chill through me. "Ethan, that's enough. Take it off now," I demanded. But he just glared at me. That mask stuck to his face like it was part of him. He turned and ran out of the attic, the wooden stairs creaking as he bolted downstairs, past his younger brother. Ben and I looked at each other, both of us startled. "Dad, what's wrong with him?" Ben asked, his voice small. I didn't have an answer, but I felt a knot forming in my stomach. I followed Ethan downstairs, calling after him, but by the time I made it outside, he was already in the car. He had grabbed the keys from the counter somehow and started the engine. My heart nearly stopped when I saw him rev the car, his foot slamming down on the gas. He tore out of the driveway, swerving wildly down the street. Remember, he's 10 years old and had never ever driven a car before. I sprinted after him, yelling for him to stop. But he was gone, weaving between parked cars, clipping trash cans, tires screeching. He wasn't just playing anymore. He was out of control. I grabbed my phone and ran to my car, shaking as I dialed 911. My son was tearing through the neighborhood, and I didn't know what to do. I could hear him in the distance, the sound of metal crunching as he slammed into something. My heart was racing, and I could barely keep my hands steady enough to start my own car. My heart was in my throat as I finally caught up to him. The car had slammed into a fence, the front crumpled, but somehow, Ethan was unharmed. He was still in the driver's seat, the mask stuck to his face, muttering under his breath. I yanked open the door. "Ethan, what the hell?" I grabbed him by the shoulders, but he didn't respond. His eyes were wild, unfocused, and he kept whispering, "The devils are making me do it. They're going to hurt us." My blood ran cold. I tried to pull him out of the car, but he fought me. "No, they're going to punish me if I take it off," he screamed, thrashing in the seat. This wasn't my son anymore. I had to stop him before something worse happened. Desperation took over. I grabbed the mask, ripping at it. He screamed, but I knew I had no choice. I pulled as hard as I could, the rubber tearing against his skin, until finally, it came loose. Ethan collapsed into my arms, shaking, gasping for air. "Dad," he whispered, his voice breaking. I held him tightly, my heart pounding. He was back. My son was back. The police arrived soon after, sirens blaring. The scene looked like a tornado had hit. Trash cans overturned, fences smashed, the car wrecked. They rushed over, assuming the worst. They thought Ethan was on drugs. How could they not? "He's 10, God damn it. He's not on drugs," I said. But did I really know? At the hospital, the tests started. They were convinced something had triggered his behavior. I told them about the mask, about how it all started with that. But they looked at me like I was crazy. I'd thrown it in the back seat. I presume it was still there. Days passed. My wife and daughter came back, and Ethan finally was acting like his old self. Then the results came in. There were no drugs in his system, no alcohol, nothing. That's when the police called me in. Turns out they'd tested the mask too. It wasn't just some old costume. It was breaking down, releasing toxic chemicals. Phthalates, they called them. Fumes that induce hallucinations. That's why Ethan thought he was possessed. No demon or evil spirit, just old plastic. The doctors explained it all to me, but it didn't make it any easier. My son nearly lost himself because of something so small. Something I'd let him wear without thinking twice. Now, sitting by his hospital bed, I can't help but think how close we came. How close we were to losing him. It's terrifying how fragile things are. How something as simple as an old mask can tear your world apart. Some stories are a reminder that even in the most familiar places, darkness can lurk just beneath the surface. Let us know your thoughts in the comments, and be sure to join us for more chilling tales.